Emma Walker didn't stand out, and that's how she liked it. At 24, she'd taken the job at Blackridge Tactical Range in Nevada, mostly to pay rent and stay close to her brother, who was stationed nearby. The facility was for high-level military training, including Navy SEAL, sniper rotations, and Emma's job was about as behind the scenes as it got. Her duties were simple: sweep brass casings, fix jammed target lifts, change out paper targets, and make sure shooters had uninterrupted sessions. She wore a staff cap, a name tag nobody read, and a pair of headphones to mute the noise. She didn't mind being overlooked. In fact, she preferred it. The SEALs were focused, intense, and often aggressive. They treated civilians like shadows seen, but never acknowledged. Emma moved in and out of the range lanes like a ghost, fixing what needed, fixing and vanishing before anyone noticed she'd been there. But she noticed everything. Each day after work, Emma would drive out to a quiet desert patch behind an abandoned ranch and shoot soda cans from fence posts with her dad's old bolt-action .308. She never told anyone, not even the people at the range, that she'd grown up shooting with a man who once trained wildlife rangers in Montana. Her father had taught her patience, calculation, and the art of letting the shot break itself. When he passed away 2 years earlier, Emma had stopped hunting but never stopped shooting. On a Tuesday morning in June, the Nevada sun already baking the sand by 9 a.m. A mechanical jam changed everything. Lane 12's target system locked up halfway through a timed drill. The rangemaster, swamped with back-to-back training sessions, waved Emma over. She grabbed her toolkit and trotted across the gravel. The jam wasn't complicated, just a misaligned gear track. As she squatted to open the housing box, a high rifle thundered from a nearby platform. She flinched, more out of habit than fear. She didn't know that one of the SEALs, Chief Barrett Chase, had just paused to reload and happened to glance in her direction. Barrett was a quiet operator, mid-30s, lean, with a hawk-like gaze that missed nothing. After 17 years in the Navy, he didn't get surprised easily. But something about the way the girl handled the repair caught his attention. She didn't look around nervously. Like most civilians, she didn't fumble with the screws or curse the jam. She used a flathead screwdriver with a light, practiced wrist, fixed the alignment, tested the motion twice, then replaced the cover. Smooth, calm, confident. Barrett raised an eyebrow. "Who is she?" he muttered. Another SEAL beside him shrugged. "Just range staff." Barrett watched as she stood, brushed dust off her jeans, and walked toward the side building. She didn't know he was still watching when she paused near the rifle. Benches just briefly and let her eyes rest on a custom Mk12 Mod 1 rifle. Her glance was brief, but it said enough. Not curiosity. Recognition. Barrett smirked. Most people walked by that rifle without a second look. Most civilians wouldn't even know the difference between a basic AR-15 and a finely tuned designated marksman rifle. But she looked at it the way a pianist looks at a familiar piano. Interesting. Back in the service room, Emma sat on a stool, sipping her water bottle, still unaware of the small ripple she'd just caused. As far as she was concerned, it had been just another jammed lift, just another moment behind the curtain. But word moves fast on ranges like Blackridge, especially when a SEAL notices something off script. Later that afternoon, Barrett stopped by the tool shack while Emma was organizing ammo trays. She turned, startled. "Didn't mean to sneak up on you," he said casually. "Just wanted to say thanks. That lift's working smoother now than it was yesterday." Emma nodded. "No problem. Happens a lot when the system gets dust in the joints." "You a mechanic?" he asked, tilting his head. "Not really, just picked up a few things over time." He hesitated. "Ever shoot?" Emma looked at him, eyes narrowing a bit. "I mean professionally," he added. She smiled slightly. "Not professionally. I grew up hunting Montana. My dad was a forest ranger. Taught me everything he knew." Barrett nodded. "Bet he taught you well?" Emma shrugged. "He was particular." The conversation ended there. Barrett didn't press. He simply gave a short nod and walked off. Emma returned to her trays, a little confused but not overly curious. That night, As Barrett reviewed his squad's performance logs, his mind wandered back to her. The calm presence, the sharp eye, the way she stood like she knew the rhythm of the range. Most people wore the place like a borrowed jacket. She wore it like second skin. He made a quiet note to himself in his tablet. Range girl, quiet, sharp, shoots, confirm. He didn't know why he wrote it. Emma, for her part, went home and cleaned her father's rifle for the 4th time that week. Something told her she might need it soon. Barrett Chase wasn't one to second-guess himself, but something about the girl from the range kept clawing at the back of his mind. He tried to shake it off, tried to return to the standard grind of drills, coaching younger SEALs, and adjusting to the harsh Nevada heat, but her calm demeanor kept replaying. It wasn't just her fixing a jammed mechanism, it was how she moved. How she looked at the rifle like it had history. So the next day, when his team had a late afternoon window between sessions, Barrett stuck around longer than usual. From the edge of the catwalk, he spotted her walking the far side of the range. Dragging a cart full of paper targets and a roll of orange adhesive dots, Barrett decided he wanted to know more. Emma, right? He called out, catching her off guard. As she adjusted a post, she turned, wiping sweat from her brow. Yes, sir. No, sir, he said. Barrett's fine. She gave a polite nod. What do you need? Nothing. Just saw how fast you fixed that jam yesterday. Most folks struggle with those. She smirked a little. It's not hard if you've seen it jam 4 times in a week. Usually, the gear rail sticks when the wind's high and dust gets caught. That answer didn't sound rehearsed. Sounded like someone who paid attention. You got an eye for detail, he said. Notice the way you looked at my Mk-12 yesterday. She hesitated, then admitted, it's a beautiful setup. Nice optics, clean rail, and a suppressed barrel that's actually balanced. Most guys hang too much junk on them. Yours is practical. That got his attention. Barrett nodded slowly. You ever shoot one? Emma tilted her head. Not that particular model. Closest was a .308 my dad let me build when I was 15. Not semi-auto, but it taught me to think before I squeeze. Barrett let that hang in the air. He could have ended the conversation there. Walked away and just let her fade back into the background, but something told him not to. You free after your shift? He asked casually. Emma blinked. Why? Just thought maybe you could help me test some optics. Always better with a second set of eyes. She studied him for a moment. No games, no smirk, no hint of mockery. He seemed serious. All right, she said. As long as it's cleared with the rangemaster. Barrett smiled. Already done. That evening, with the sun sinking low behind the desert hills, Emma met Barrett on the western pad of the range. The wind had cooled slightly, and the steel targets at various distances glinted faintly in the last light of day. Barrett had already set up 2 benches, one with his Mk-12, the other with a spotting scope. He motioned her over. You know how to spot? Emma gave him a look. I do. He chuckled. Fair enough. For the next 15 minutes, Emma called wind drift, calculated range adjustments, and even suggested a minor tweak to the parallax setting Barrett hadn't noticed. He didn't say much. He was too busy watching her work. She wasn't just accurate, she was surgical. Every correction made sense. Every call came with confidence, but no arrogance. Then he did something she didn't expect. He slid the Mk-12 over to her. Your turn. Emma stared at it for a second. You're sure? You hesitated when you said you never shot one. I want to see what that hesitation was hiding. She nodded quietly, slipped into the seat, adjusted the cheek rest without asking for help, and sighted in. Barrett stood behind her, arms crossed, silent. The first shot cracked through the silence, steel pinged at 800 yards. Emma didn't react. She adjusted slightly, exhaled, and fired again. Ping-dot-bing. Then again .ping-dot. She sat up slowly, placed the rifle back on its rest, and looked at him. Feels smoother than I expected. I adjusted a hair right for wind after the first shot. Barrett blinked. Yeah, he said. I saw. He didn't clap, didn't shout, didn't cheer. But inside, his brain was already sprinting. She wasn't just good, she was beyond good. Ever thought about training professionally? He asked. She shook her head. No. I shoot for peace. That was my dad's rule. If you pull a trigger, it better not be for ego. Barrett respected that. But it didn't change what he'd just witnessed. He thanked her, packed the rifle, and walked her back to the staff quarters. She paused at the door. Thanks for letting me shoot, she said. Barrett nodded. You didn't just shoot. You handled it like you built it. Emma smiled. Guess I was raised right. As she stepped inside, Barrett pulled out his phone and messaged a name from his old sniper school days. You remember how we used to talk about raw talent? I just found it working part-time at our range. Back in her bunk, Emma opened her dad's old shooting log. Flipping to the last page, written in shaky handwriting. The world always looks different when you know you can hit your mark. Just make sure you aim at the right things. She closed the notebook slowly. Some part of her knew this was no longer just a job, it had just become a test. Emma arrived early the next morning, walking through the range gates before sunrise. The gravel crunched beneath her boots, and the air still held a chill. It was quiet for a place that usually echoed with bursts of gunfire by mid. She liked it that way. These peaceful hours belonged to her, but someone else had arrived before her. Barrett was already at lane 10. Leaning against a bench, his MK12 propped up beside him. He gave her a small nod. You always show up this early? She asked. I could ask you the same. She smiled. Force of habit. He motioned to the second bench. Another rifle was set up sleek, black, with a scope mounted low and tight. The suppressor gleamed faintly in the morning light. I figured. You might want more than 3 shots, Barrett said. Emma hesitated. You're setting me up. Only to see what you're capable of. She stepped forward. The second rifle was lighter than the MK12, but just as smooth. She checked the chamber, adjusted the scope, and confirmed her elevation. Her fingers moved with muscle memory. Barrett watched, impressed again by how little she hesitated and how naturally she took control. He'd trained dozens of shooters, many of them from special operations. None had hands this steady the first time they touched a rifle like this. Targets are staggered out 700, 800, 1,000. And 1,200, he said. There's a slight left crosswind. Emma gave a slight nod and lay down on the mat. She breathed out slowly, then pulled the trigger. Ping. She cycled the bolt. Ping. Another adjustment. Ping. Then the 1,200-yard target. She exhaled. Waited for the wind flag to drop, then sent the shot. Ping. Barrett let out a soft whistle. 444. You didn't even ask for a spotter. She sat up slowly and looked toward him. I listened to the wind, she said. And that scope's zeroed perfectly. Barrett leaned on the bench beside her. You're making my best guys look slow. I'm not competing with them. No. You're not, but you are showing them what it looks like when someone's born to do this. Emma looked away, unsure how to respond. Praise made her uncomfortable. She preferred actions over words. Barrett saw the hesitation. That make you nervous? No, she said. It makes me wonder what happens next. He tilted his head. You think something's about to happen? She shrugged. You don't bring out that kind of rifle unless you're testing something. Or someone. Barrett chuckled. Guilty. Later that day, the range returned to its usual rhythm. Drills resumed. Rifles thundered. SEAL candidates rotated through sniper training lanes, sweating through their routines. Emma kept her distance, staying in her usual role, resetting targets, replacing scorecards, and recording session notes. But whispers had started. Did you hear about the range girl? She outshot Davis at 1,000 yards yesterday. No way. Civilians can't shoot like that. Barrett hadn't said much, but word traveled fast. And SEALs were competitive. One by one, they started finding excuses to talk to Emma. Small talk at first, then questions. You ever shoot a Barrett M82? What's your wind call method? Think. You could beat me at 1,100. Emma answered kindly, but carefully. She wasn't trying to outshine anyone. She was trying to stay grounded in what she loved: precision, control, and calm under pressure. By the end of the week, 3 SEAL candidates had requested to shoot side by side with her after hours. Barrett cleared it. Emma agreed. The informal session took place under the late desert sky, orange lights stretching across the sand like fire. The steel targets gleamed again. The competition was simple: 4 shooters, 1 rifle, 5 distance is 600 to 1,200 yards. No wind readers, no spotters, just instinct and calculation. Mo went last. She watched each man shoot. 2 were solid tight groupings, 1 miss each. The third missed twice. Then she stepped up. By then, the small crowd had grown. Off-duty SEALs, instructors, even the rangemaster stood behind the benches, arms crossed. Silence fell across the group as she lined up her first shot. Ping. She adjusted. Ping. Another breath. Ping. 4th target. Ping. Last shot. She waited. The wind was subtle but shifting. She exhaled, squeezed. Ping. The crowd stayed silent. Not because they were unimpressed, but because they were stunned. Barrett gave her a nod. Perfect run. Someone clapped. Then more followed. She didn't smile or bow. She just cleared the chamber, set the rifle down, and backed away. One SEAL stepped forward, grinning. "You ever think about joining us?" Emma shook her head gently. "I don't shoot for flags or ranks. Just for the shot." Another man whistled under his breath. "Respect." Barrett stepped beside her. "You know what's coming now, right?" "What?" "They're gonna talk. Word's gonna spread." Emma looked out across the desert. The last sunlight was vanishing behind the mountains. "Let them," she said. By Monday, Emma couldn't walk across the range without someone watching. Most said nothing. A few nodded politely. Others gave her subtle smiles or respectful glances. It was a strange shift. Just a week ago, she was invisible. Another staff member fixing jammed lifts and cleaning up brass. Now she was the quiet girl who had outshot 3 SEALs in front of a crowd. Most impressive wasn't her accuracy, it was her calm. No trash talk, no nerves, no celebration. Just results. Some respected that, others weren't convinced. During lunch, Barrett found her in the gear shed, replacing bent target stands. She looked up when he walked in. "They're planning a challenge," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, what, nothing formal?" "Just a few guys from Team 4. They're calling it the Proving Ground. Standard course, timed run, moving targets, variable wind. They want to see if you're the real deal." Emma leaned against the wall. "Is this about ego?" Barrett shook his head. "Partially, but mostly curiosity. You don't just walk onto a SEAL range and outshoot trained snipers. They want to see if lightning strikes twice." She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "If I say no, what happens?" "They leave you alone," Barrett replied. "But they'll always wonder. If you say yes, you'll be stepping into a world that doesn't forget." Emma folded her arms. "And what do you think I should do?" Barrett gave a faint smile. "I think you've already decided." That night, she sat in her small bunk, staring at her dad's old rifle journal. The pages were yellowed, edges curled. One entry caught her eye. "Sometimes it's not about the shot, it's about who sees you take it." She closed the book and nodded to herself. The challenge was set for the following evening right after the range closed to the public. 6 shooters, including 2 seasoned SEAL snipers and 3 high-ranking instructors, would run the same course. Emma would go last. No advantage, no handicap, just the rifle and the shot. When the time came, the range was electric with quiet tension. The challenge lane was longer than usual, designed to test even the best shooters. Targets moved laterally, popped up at odd intervals, and included blind elevation changes. The course demanded precision, speed, and real-time calculations. Barrett stood by the scoring table. The rest of the SEALs gathered on the catwalk above, silent and alert. The first sniper ran clean, missed only 1 target. The second, faster but sloppier, missed 3. The others fell somewhere in between. Then Emma stepped to the line. She wore no tactical vest, no camouflage, just a plain t-shirt, jeans, and a backward ball cap. Her only equipment was Barrett's Mk-12, freshly cleaned and sighted. The range officer leaned in. Ready. Emma nodded. Double quotes, 3, 2, 1. Go. She dropped to prone and fired her first shot. Ping. She transitioned to kneeling, hit the next 2 targets clean, then standing. Ping, ping. Lateral mover ping. Her timing was flawless. She moved between stations with quiet efficiency, no wasted motion. Every shot was calculated with precision. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. On the final stretch, the wind picked up. Most shooters had missed at least one long-range target here. Emma adjusted her hold, waited an extra beat, and fired. Ping. She exhaled, stood, cleared the rifle, and stepped back. Barrett reviewed the timer and scoresheet. Then he looked up. She just beat the range record. The crowd reacted, some murmuring, some stunned into silence. One of the instructors, a man named Reyes, walked over and extended his hand. That was the cleanest run I've ever seen on this course, and I've been running it for 15 years. Emma shook his hand, a little unsure how to respond. You sure you've never trained formally? He asked. Just my dad's teaching, she said softly. He whistled. Then your dad must have been something else. Barrett walked over, holding the scorecard. You know what this means, right? He asked. Emma shrugged. More staring, more attention, he said. From the right people, maybe the wrong ones too, she nodded. Then I'll have to choose who's worth listening to. That night, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Your shooting caught the attention of someone we'd like you to meet. No pressure, just coffee. Tomorrow, at 0900, Blackstone Building, 3rd floor. Emma stared at the message. For a while, then she powered off her phone and stared out the window at the dark Nevada sky. Barrett had been right. The shot wasn't the end, it was just the trigger. The Blackstone Building stood tall against the morning sun, all steel and tinted glass. Emma felt out of place as she stepped inside jeans boots, and a coffee-stained hoodie didn't match the business suits passing her in the lobby. But no. One stopped her. The security guard gave her a nod, already expecting her. She rode the elevator to the 3rd floor, heart steady but mind racing. What was this really about? A man in a polo shirt and military-style haircut greeted her as the doors opened. His handshake was firm, eyes sharp. Emma Walker, he said. Commander Rivas, thanks for coming. He led her into a simple conference room, no windows, 1 table, 2 chairs. A file sat open in front of him, a photo of her with Barrett. At the range clipped to the corner, she recognized the picture. It was from the day she shot the challenge course. You're not in trouble, he said, sensing her wariness. Quite the opposite. She sat, arms crossed. So what is this? Rivas leaned back. I've been overseeing sniper qualifications for over a decade. I've seen some exceptional shooters, but none of them walked in off the street, ran a challenge cold, and shattered our course record. Emma didn't respond. He continued, your scores beat Tier 1 candidates. Your shot timing suggests advanced cognitive processing. Your wind calls better than half the guys currently deployed. She kept her expression unreadable. So what do you want? He pushed the file toward her. We want you to train with us. Not as a recruit, as a contractor, consultant, civilian status. You'd help develop sniper evaluation systems, spot gaps in training, maybe even teach. Your skill set is too rare to waste. Emma looked down at the papers. Clearance documents, NDA forms, pay grades. It felt like a trap disguised as an opportunity. I'm not interested in killing, she said quietly. Rivas nodded. That's not what this is. This is about preparation, accuracy, discipline. The ones who hesitate, they die. The ones who learn from shooters like you, they survive. She stood, heart pounding. I'll think about it. He didn't try to stop her. As she walked out of the building, her mind replayed his words again and again. Back at the range, she found Barrett cleaning weapons in the armory. They made their move, didn't they? He asked without looking up. Emma nodded. They want me to work with them. Train shooters. He wiped down a barrel. You surprised? I didn't ask for this. Barrett looked at her now. You didn't, but you earned it. She leaned against the workbench. I just liked fixing targets, shooting cans, helping my dad zero scopes. I never wanted all this. Barrett set the rifle aside. Emma, the world finds talent. That's what it does. You don't have to say yes, but don't say no just because it wasn't part of your plan. She left the armory that afternoon and drove 2 hours north, to a cabin that hadn't been opened in nearly a year. Her father's cabin. The boards creaked under her boots as she entered. Dust floated through the beams of sunlight cutting across the floor. The place still smelled like oil, pine, and old leather. She walked to the back room and pulled out the lockbox beneath his workbench. Inside, folded carefully, were his old notebooks, scopes, and one unfinished rifle project. The barrel was marked with initials Zoo, Emma Walker. She sat there for hours, flipping through pages filled with calculations, scope diagrams, wind formulas, and field notes. Then she found it, one line scrawled across the bottom of a page. You don't choose a gift, you choose what to do with it. She closed the book, breathed in deep, and packed the rifle into the case. The next morning, she was back at Blackridge. Barrett raised an eyebrow when she entered the instructor lounge. You're early, Bissette. She set the case on the table and opened it. Inside lay the finished rifle. Her name etched near the trigger. I'm not joining the Navy, she said. But if I can help make better shooters, ones who survive the real thing, then maybe I can live with that. Barrett grinned. That's the best call you've made all week. The next phase had begun. Emma wasn't just the girl fixing targets anymore. Now she was the one setting the standard. Emma's mornings now started at 04:30. No alarm, just discipline. She arrived at the range before anyone else, set up her new lane layouts, ran wind tests, and designed simulations tailored to modern threats. Her focus wasn't just accuracy, it was realism. The shooters she trained needed to perform under pressure, fatigue, and chaos. Every second counted in combat. Every error cost lives. Barrett watched her work from a distance. She didn't need supervision. What she needed was space and the silence to listen to the wind like her father taught her. By week 4. She was training elite SEAL teams. They respected her not because of her name, or past, or rank, because she delivered results. On one afternoon, she ran a surprise drill. The shooters had 30 seconds to identify, range, and eliminate 6 rapidly appearing targets. Only 2 men passed. One of them, a sniper named Delgado, approached Emma after the debrief. That wind trick you pulled at the second ridge, he said. You calculated drift from foliage movement. Emma nodded. Branches don't lie. Flags do, he grinned. You're something else, Walker. She didn't respond. Praise made her uncomfortable. But that night, alone in the armory, she allowed herself a rare smile. She was earning her place. Not long after, Commander Rivas returned. He watched quietly from the tower as Emma coached a group of recruits through variable depth fire lanes. Each shooter wore noise-dampening gear and reacted to strobe-induced distractions. It was brutal. It was effective. After the drill, Rivas approached. Emma, he said, how would you feel about traveling? She wiped her hands. Traveling? Where? Virginia Beach. The Forge facility. It's our most advanced sniper development center. There's a program starting next month. They want you there. Emma hesitated. As what? Civilian instructor, Rivas said. Lead designer for long-range response simulations. Barrett, listening nearby, said nothing. Emma crossed her arms. That's big, Rivas smiled. You've outgrown this sandbox. She didn't reply. That night, she and Barrett sat outside the range under a violet Nevada sky. The stars were out. A breeze carried dust over the gravel lot. You think I should go? She asked. Barrett took a slow sip from his mug. Depends. Do you want to teach the best? Or just keep proving you're better than them? Emma looked up at the stars. I don't know what I want anymore. Barrett leaned forward. I do. You want peace. And you're trying to earn it with every shot. His words hit deeper than she expected. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she stayed in the range tower, watching the wind move over the hills. Her father's journal open on her lap. The next morning, she gave her answer. I'll go, she told Rivers. But on my terms. He nodded. You'll have full control over the course design. Your rifle, your rules, then I'm in. 2 weeks later, she was on a plane, east. No ceremony, no fanfare, just her rifle, her notebook, and a resolve forged under desert. Sundot, the forge facility, was colder shopper. Everything about it felt more clinical, more refined. There were more rules, more eyes, more expectations, but none of it fazed her. She built her course from scratch: tall grass concealment, microclimate, ranges, distraction drills, live target feedback. She didn't just make shooters better, she made them aware, intuitive, adaptable, and she did it without shouting. She taught with silence and demonstration. Word spread fast. Soon, Tier 1 operators requested slots in her course. A few tried to test her, mocking, questioning, doubting, until they missed. And she, DIDN, single quotes to. One day, a high-ranking SEAL commander took the course in secret. No rank, no warning, just another man with a rifle. Emma treated him the same as the rest. When he finally broke silence after failing her wind drill, he said one thing. You shoot like someone who's buried people. Emma didn't answer. She didn't need to. That night, she returned to her small quarters on base, sat alone, and reread her father's final letter. It had arrived after his funeral, sealed and yellowed. You'll never know peace until you pass the gift on. Not the skill, the discipline, the stillness. Give it to someone who'll survive because of it. Then you'll sleep. She folded the letter and turned out the light. For the first time in months, she slept without waking, but peace was short-lived. The next morning, an urgent request came in. A foreign base had suffered a sniper failure during a mission error. That cost lives. The intel team reviewed simulations and realized the scenario matched one of Emma's exact drills. The problem? The operator failed it during her course. Now they wanted her help on site. Real-world field review. Real-world danger. Emma looked at the sealed envelope. Her next test wasn't on a range, it was in the real smoke, with wind that didn't care how many targets she'd hit before. Djibouti was nothing like Nevada. The air was heavier, and the sun, though familiar, pressed down harder. The base was active but tense, quiet in a way that suggested something had gone wrong. Emma stepped off the transport plane and was immediately met by a tall man with grey eyes and a salt-and-pepper beard. Walker, he asked. Yes, Colonel Nash, follow me. He didn't waste time with small talk. Within minutes, they were in a mobile command unit, reviewing drone footage, thermal scans, and stills from a failed rescue op that left 3 operators dead. The surviving team member Callahan had misjudged a long-range crossfire during EX-file TRATION.MR leaned in, studying the angle of his last position. This was the same scenario from my week 3 drill, she said. Nash nodded. We pulled his records. He missed that shot in training. The one you designed. Emma's jaw tensed. And you sent him anyway. We had no choice. Short notice, no backup. We thought field instincts would kick in. Emma looked him dead in the eye. Instinct isn't a backup plan. Later that day, she met Callahan. His arm was bandaged, eyes hollow. He didn't stand when she entered the tent. I know who you are, he said. The one who made me miss before I missed for real. Emma didn't flinch. And now 3 people are dead. He laughed bitterly. You think I don't know that? I see it every time I close my eyes. She pulled a chair up. Then let's make sure it never happens again. They spent hours together. She walked him through frame-by-frame footage. They analyzed his breathing, his stance, his scope drift. By nightfall, Callahan wasn't defensive anymore. He was broken but rebuilding. Over the next 2 days, Emma rewrote part of the training doctrine for the unit. She shortened hesitation drills, added instinct recognition tests, and introduced a sensory deprivation scenario that mirrored urban chaos. Word spread. Operators who once doubted her now stood silent when she entered a room. Even Nash admitted, "You see things before they happen." She shook her head. "I see the mistakes no one else wants to." On the third day, an urgent call came in. A convoy extraction had gone wrong in Mogadishu. The window for rescue was tight 12 hours. Max. The surrounding terrain offered no cover, and the overwatch position had been compromised. "We need an expert on site," Nash said. Emma raised an eyebrow. "You're asking me to go into the field?" He didn't blink. "You've read the terrain better than anyone. No one else sees the wind the way you do." Barrett's words echoed in her mind. "You want peace? And you're trying to earn it with every shot." She grabbed her gear. 2 hours later, she was in the back of a helicopter. Wind tearing through the open doors as the city neared on the horizon. She wore light tactical gear, her custom rifle slung over her shoulder. A young operator across from her stared wide-eyed. "You're Emma Walker." She nodded. "They say you once hit a moving steel plate at 1,600 meters with a borrowed rifle." Emma smiled faintly. "I did." He blinked. "That's insane." "No," she said. "That's discipline." The bird dropped low. The LZ was hot. They disembarked fast, weaving through a narrow alley toward a sandbagged position overlooking the exfil zone. Her scope came up instantly. In seconds, she identified wind turbulence, glare bounce, and 3 enemy snipers roosted on high balconies. "Left tower edge of shadow," she said. The young spotter scanned, then flinched. "How'd you see that?" The shadow blinked. When he moved his elbow, the first shot echoed. Target down. Seconds later, 2 more, 3 shots, 3 kills. The team moved in, cleared the alley, and secured the convoy route. But the mission wasn't over. A 4th shooter appeared, this one hidden behind reflective glass, 800 meters west, directly across the wind channel. Her window was 4 seconds wide. Wind speed shifting, glare bouncing. She breathed once, adjusted, and fired. The glass shattered, silence. Then radio confirmation, shooter neutralized, site secure. Emma exhaled, slowly. As the sun lowered, she sat on a rooftop edge, watching the wind carry dust over the city. Callahan approached, now part of the forward recon. "You saved them," he said. "No," she answered. "I trained for this moment my whole life." He hesitated. "Does it ever feel, too heavy?" Emma looked at the horizon. "It always does, but you learn to carry it anyway." That night, back at base, Nash handed her a commendation letter, and said, "We'll try to keep you out of the line next time." Emma nodded. "You won't." She boarded the transport home the next morning, rifle at her side. Eyes forward, but something had changed. She wasn't just training soldiers anymore, she was changing how they survived. Emma stood once again at the range in Nevada, wind brushing across her face like an old friend. The place hadn't changed: sand, steel targets, and distant ridgelines, but she had. Her boots sank into familiar soil, but her posture held new. "Wait," Barrett leaned against the fence post, sipping coffee. "You look like someone who's seen too much." Emma cracked a smile. "You think?" He nodded. "I heard what happened in Mogadishu." "Clean work." She didn't answer. The desert felt quieter now. Or maybe she was just more aware of silence. A group of trainees were setting up at the shooting bays, oblivious to who she was. One fumbled a magazine. Another adjusted his scope. Wrong. Barrett noticed her glance. "Want to go say something?" Emma shook her head. "They'll learn. The hard way if they have to." Barrett was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I've been meaning to ask, what's next for you?" She took a deep breath. "They offered me a full-time position, permanent, civilian, embedded in combat readiness, training, overseer of long-range systems, full access, full clearance, and I turned it down." Barrett raised his eyebrows. Emma continued, "I didn't sign up to live in war. I signed up to prevent people from dying in them." There's a difference. He nodded slowly, respectfully. Where does that leave you? She looked at the distant mountain ridge. It leaves me here. Starting something different. Later that week, Emma stood in front of a modest building just outside town. A new sign was being mounted above the door. Walker Precision Shoot Smart. Live longer. Inside, the walls were lined with equipments, scopes, wind meters, simulation setups, even VR training units. It wasn't a typical gun store or a shooting range, it was a precision lab. Her own design. She had partnered with veterans, trainers, and trauma specialists. Her plan wasn't just to improve shooting skills, it was to change how people thought about pressure, timing, decision-making under chaos. A different kind of readiness. On opening day, Barrett dropped by early. Looks like you built a brain. Gym with bullets, he said, running his fingers along a matte black simulator rifle. Emma smirked. Close enough. By noon, they had a full room. Not just military, firefighters, first responders, EMTs, even a few civilians with no desire to shoot anyone, but every desire to learn how to stay calm when life exploded around them. One teenager approached Emma nervously after a simulation. Test you're the one from that SEAL video, right? The woman who dropped 3 snipers in under 10 seconds. Emma smiled gently. I am, he hesitated. Can you teach me how to shoot like that? No, she said, but I can teach you how to think like that. That's what matters. Weeks passed. The facility grew. She hired instructors, developed courses. Some of her former contacts even sent recruits to her for early prep before they ever saw a uniform. Then came the letter. Official stationery. A gold seal in the corner. Department of Defense. Inside was a proposal. They wanted to name a new long-range training protocol after her. The Walker system. It was optional, they said. But her simulations had reduced field hesitation by 36%. Decision timing improved by over half. Survivability up. Casualties down. Barrett read it aloud. First woman to rewrite sniper doctrine without ever wearing a uniform. Emma looked down at the letter, then back out the window. Should I be honored or scared? Barrett shrugged. Why not both? She accepted the recognition quietly, without ceremony. The only photo taken was of her standing under her shops. Sign arms folded, wind pushing strands of hair across her face. Weeks later, during a regional emergency preparedness fair, she gave a talk. No slides, no weapons, just a microphone and a lesson, she said. Everyone trains for when things go right. I teach people what to do when everything goes wrong. That's the shot that matters. Afterward, an old man approached her Vietnam vet by the look of his stance. You ever regret stepping into this world? Emma thought for a long moment. No, I regret it took this world so long to believe someone like me belonged in it. He tipped his cap. The day wound down, students filed out. Simulators powered off. Emma stayed late, cleaning gear, running checks. She paused in front of her original rifle, the one with her initials etched near the trigger, her father's unfinished project, now complete. She raised it once more, aimed out across the makeshift practice lane behind the shop. A single steel plate stood at the end. Wind from the west, temperature drop, shadows shifting. She exhaled, adjusted a half-click left, and pulled the trigger. The plate rang like a bell. That shot didn't prove anything. It just reminded her she still could.